calling this meeting to order. The time is 5:30 p.m. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551, this meeting is officially open with a quorum present. I'll ask that you please stand and join me in the pledges, in the U.S. pledge and the Texas pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We'll now be moving on to agenda item number 3 under recognitions. Mr. Clint Bond will announce our principal appointments. Are you ready, Mr. Bond?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you very much, President Ramos and members of the board. We're going to start with our elementary principals this evening, and if they would stand and just turn themselves towards the cameraman over there, we'll get a nice picture of them, too. So from MG Ellis Primary, Deborah Baez Carrasquillo. West Park Elementary School is Kendall Condit, but she's at the West Park Back to School Bash, so she's not here this evening. Daggett Montessori, Victoria Sunagino. Riverside ALC, Jennifer Kennedy. Wilson Elementary School, Irma Ayala. Mary Louise Phillips Elementary, Laura Hill. Morningside Elementary, Vanessa Cuarenta. D. McCrae Elementary, Aura Angel. Van Zant Gwynn Elementary School, Deborah Fuentes. Leadership Academy at John T. White, Nikita Moye. SS Dillo Elementary School, Devon Flagler. De Zavala Elementary School, Marlette Martinez. Hazel Harvey, Peace Elementary, Anthony Avery. Carter Park Elementary School, Margaret Huff. Carroll Peak Elementary School, Kaylin San Jacinto. Tarrant County College, South College High School, Quanda Collins, but she is at an activity at her campus. Jean McClung Middle School, Maran McWilliams. Meadowbrook Middle School is Darrell Gentry, but he also is at an activity at his campus. J.P. Elder Middle School, David Trimble. Metro Opportunity High School, Andra Bohannon. And O.D. Wyatt High School, Howard Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. We will be moving on to reports and presentations. I believe we have, first one is the 2019-2020 General Fund Budget Update. Is that you, Ms. Shiro?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, President Ramos, Dr. Scribner, and members of the board. David and I are really pleasantly here today to give you a budget update regarding HB3, the compensation allotment. And the benefit to our employees by waiting a month or so. And so we're going to follow this agenda this evening. And so to get started, I want to take us back to June the 25th of 2019, when you and the board, presented and approved the budget in the general fund. Knowing that HB3 just passed within the past month, knowing that there was major interpretation to be done, and at that point, I think it was smart for all of us to defer that decision, to come back this evening after David and staff have had the ability to review some of the information that's been forthcoming. Back on the 25th of June, we estimated the HB allotment gain to be approximately $53.5 million. So since then, TEA has come out with technical guidance in video and in print regarding budget planning for teacher compensation, tax rate changes, state comp ed education funding, clarification, additional information on pre-K funding. TEA also provided a calculation tool that populated our district's values and data, and for us to compare against our own. And so with that, we have been attempting to then finalize that revenue gain with the additional information that we received. Furthermore, when we came to you on the 25th of June for the budget, we estimated and budgeted on a 7.5% increase in our taxable property values. The certified values received by the TAD on July the 22nd reflect almost a 14% increase over the 2018 state values. You should know that there has been changes to the funding formula, so now we use current year property values. So, even though that we have this gain, we may not receive the full benefit of that because the lag no longer exists. And, of course, we used estimates for our tax collections and weighted student populations and ADA. So when the dust settled and as we come to you this evening, we have calculated the HB3 revenue gain to $57.7 million, which is $4 million or more over what we estimated a little over a month and a half ago. So that's really good news for our employees. Also, over the past month, we also determined that there's embedded in HB3 a provision to possibly compensate districts who have higher gains in property values over a certain threshold, and it's called the transition grant. And we're going to be learning more about that over the coming months to come. Whether or not Fort Worth ISD, because of that 14% gain, will we be eligible for that grant, we're uncertain, but we'll certainly let you know. Additionally, there have been a very high amount of protests and ARB reviews, and so we will not know what our taxable property values actually are until, January, February, and March when all of those are resolved. So the truth of the matter is that when you look at it, we're not going to really know the actual revenue gain until almost July of 2020 when we submit our summer PEIM submission, and HB3 is fully interpreted. So we will be back on numerous occasions throughout the year giving you updates on this. The other question out there has been, is this compensation allotment, if we're underestimated, is there a settle-up? And the final guidance on that is still forthcoming. However, you'll see when we incorporate our own 2019-20 compensation package, which is over $18 million, it is most likely that even if, in fact, there is any settle-up, we've already met that with our own compensation additions to this budget. However, if, in fact, there is any settle-up, we're going to put a provision in our compensation manual to say that if there's any increase to employee compensation to utilize funds, we can do so if additional information on HB3 becomes available. I believe this slide is very telling on how the district has appropriated the $57.7 million in HB3 revenue gain. I thank Trustee Phillips. He came up with a great idea to kind of give a visual on exactly how we have appropriated the $57.7 million of that gain. So if you look at the slide, you're going to see in orange that the HB3 pay increase is right at $19.2 million. That also includes benefits. In addition, on the 25th of June, you approved a compensation package well over $17.2 million. So if you add those two together, the compensation alone in this budget is over $36.5 million. So that encompasses a great deal of that gain. In addition, you'll recall that a part of HB3 was to increase our state comp ed allotment. Our state comp ed is equivalent to the state of, like the state's equivalent to Title I, and to be spent, for economically disadvantaged students. And so we have set aside over $20 million to address those needs. And so when you look at the rest, it's a little over $1.2 million that is left for district operations out of the $57.7 million gain. This is nothing more than a reminder to the public and to our employees that back in June we did adopt $18.4 million in a compensation package. That's in addition to HB3. That equates to 3% total budget package when you think of all the things that are incorporated in that $18.4 million. So HB3 says that 30% of the HB revenue gain in the general fund must be appropriated as follows. 75% to full-time teachers, counselors, nurses, and librarians. We did a lot of work to determine exactly how many employees qualify, under that category. And in the general fund, we've calculated approximately 6,129 employees that fall there. With full-time teachers with greater than 5 years of teaching experience to receive differentiated or greater allocation. And we estimated there are approximately 3,802 of the full-time teachers in the general fund. Finally, 25% of the 30% allocation is to be paid to all other full-time staff, and that equates to 3,415 employees in the general fund. And of course, the HB3 administrative staff was not included in this compensation calculation, and we have approximately 393 employees who are considered administrative staff. We all agreed that this allotment will be paid monthly to all qualifying employees. I just wanted to reiterate that classroom teacher means an educator who, not less than an average of 4 hours each day, teaches in an academic instructional setting or a career and technology instructional setting. So we basically used this definition when we followed the HB3 guidance of giving full-time teachers differentiated pay. I wanted to briefly go over that we do have 11,887 employees approximately. It give or take in every given day that changes. However, when you look at the HB3 allocation, you have to look to the generally funded employees. And we have a lot of grant employees under special revenue. Those are grants that we receive. And we have approximately 1,950 of those in the categories listed. All right. Now, suffice to say, we did the calculation on 9,937 general fund employees, but all employees will get this allocation. It'll be the grant will then fund the allocation. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that all employees are going to get this increase, but the grant funds will cover some of that cost. So let's get into the calculation. Here it is. So the total calculated HB3 gain is $57.7 million on the top. And you take 30% of that. That equals to $17,300,000. So how do we go from there? 75% of $17 million is just right under $13 million. It's there in the center of the slide. And we have to consider 6,129 full-time nurses, teachers, counselors, and librarians. And so when we did the calculation, teachers with less than 6 years of service, including nurses, counselors, and librarians, would receive $1,588 in HB3, and teachers with greater than 5 years of experience on average would receive an additional approximately $850 for a total average of $2,441. And so as far as the 25% of the gain is considered, we have 3,415 employees, and 30% of the allocation, 25% of the 30% is $4.3 million. And you simply divide 3,415 into 4.3 million, and every other employee, excluding administrators, will receive $1,266. And you can see that administrators are excluded from HB3 calculation. However, we have talked about that administrators will receive an increase in pay. They'll just receive it out of the district's compensation portion, not the HB3 portion. And originally, we talked about 2% of midpoint or 2%, whichever is greater. And after some discussion, especially with Dr. Scribner, we recognized that many of our campus administrators were excluded from the calculation. So it would be the recommendation of administration to move that to 3% of midpoint or 3%, whichever is greater. So at the very bottom, you're going to see groupings. And so with teachers with less than 6 years of service will get an HB3 of 1,588. The district average is about 1,560, so a total of 3,148 on average. Teachers greater than 5 years will get $2,441 plus the district's $1,385 for an average of $3,826. And when you look at nurses, counselors, and librarians, they'll each get $1,588 HB3, and anywhere from $1,614 to $1,681 in the district compensation package. So they'll be receiving $3,200 plus increase in pay with both HB3 and district. And so, I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. Here we go. So when adhering to HB3 guidelines and differentiated pay, the goal was to pay full-time teachers with greater than 5 years of service, making the district salary, teacher salary schedule more competitive with peers. We assessed each step in doing so, and we also considered teacher retention. This is only a few examples of non-exempt employees. These are pay groups for non-exempt employees, ranging anywhere from 5.77% to 14.6% average increase in pay as a result of HB3 and the district's compensation package. And you'll see that when you infuse $1,266 per employee, that kind of causes variances in the percentages, but it certainly helps our employees in our lower pay groups. Next is just a few examples of exempt employees with HB3, each getting $1,266 plus the district's compensation package. And this ranges anywhere from 3.6% to 4.43%, and the same effects. So because we're infusing $1,266 to every employee, it does result in varying percentage increases. This evening, you're going to be asked to to take action and approve a general fund budget amendment. And we have to do that by function. And so if you look at the far left column of HB3 increase, you're going to see the HB3 increase at the bottom of $17.3 million by function. And you'll also see that $13.1 million of that is in function 11, and that was truly the intent of this legislative session, is to infuse most of those dollars into the classroom, and you can see that there. The middle column is the benefits portion. So the district is paying the district portion of the benefits, and so and then we also look at TRS on behalf payments. So the total HB3 cost to the district is approximately $20.4 million. And on the legend on the bottom right, you can see the percentage of district-paid benefits of approximately 11%, and the state pays approximately 7% on TRS on behalf. So as far as fund balance is concerned, I wanted to go over fund balance projections. And so let's start in the 2018-19 projected actual column. So this is for the period ending June 30th of 2019, this current year. We're still closing the books. It takes us through the entire month of September, do all the payroll accruals, book all the charges through June. So we're very busy in the accounting department right now trying to close the books. And so these are estimates that we've come up with, but so far, we think that when this year settles, we'll have approximately $746 million in revenue, with expenditures in excess of $756 million. And so we're looking at an approximate negative variance this year of about $10,700,000. We started off with an estimated deficit of about 30 million, and so we may settle on 10. It's generally less as we look at historic averages and historic spend averages. And so our ending fund balance last year was 213 million, less the approximately 10.7. By the time we get to the end of this fiscal year and we come back with our final audit report, our fund balance should be hovering around $202 million. Now, when we came to you on the 25th of June, our revenue estimates were $792 million, almost $793, with expenditures of $821.5 million. That $821 million did include our compensation package of $18 million. All right, so we adopted a deficit budget of about $27.7 million. However, as we now move toward this amendment that you will be approving this evening, we're going to be infusing approximately almost little less than $5 million in additional revenue. And the compensation package for HB3 and for TRS on behalf is approximately $24 million. So the net of those is an increase in the deficit of approximately $19.2 million. For the new board members, this may appear relatively high. For those who are seasoned, have seen budgets in the past, we have historically spent much less than we have budgeted. And so there's going to be variances due to for vacancies, outgoing salaries versus incoming salaries, movement within the district, ordering of supplies and materials. If we spend it, we do, or we don't always. We spend approximately 94 to 97%. As Mr. Johnson has said, this budget has been devised a little bit differently. We have budgeted less for vacancies, and so we're going to be bringing back any variances as we go along, because HB3 and any additional revenue that we may be receiving may have some effect on this. And so suffice to say, this is one of those years where we'll be coming back with probably multiple budget amendments, just not for routine transactions between function, but because we just have to bring back additional revenue on HB3. And so basically, that's what that slide says. We're going to be gathering additional information. And as the information comes to us, we'll certainly pass it on to you at an appropriate board meeting. So what's next? We put a website on this slide. It's very informative. At the TEA, Texas Education Agency, it tells fully about what has transpired so far in HB3. If you're interested in reading about it, it's very informative. We will certainly bring back the 2019-20 compensation manual on the 27th of August, as we will have a public hearing then to adopt the tax rate for 1920. So with that, we'll take questions.
Questions or comments from the board? Looks like we have none.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Scribner?
Yes, thank you very much, Elsie, and thank you to the board. We had a budget hearing, a budget workshop every week the month of June. We've had a couple in July, so I appreciate all the hard work and the board's commitment to being part of building this budget. We have a lot to celebrate with regard to this budget, but we also need to remain vigilant. We hope that the tax compression formula envisioned by the state legislature is in fact sustainable. I've only been here for a few years, but historically I understand the state's fallen woefully short in maintaining the necessary funding for growth in the state of Texas. This bill, HB 3, puts the state in a much more responsible position. And we will have to wait and see if they live up to that responsibility. In the legislative session of 2021, we were fortunate. Our neighbor to the east, Superintendent Michael Hinojosa from Dallas ISD, will be serving as the president of the Texas School Alliance, a large organization representing school districts, large and small, urban, suburban, and rural. And that same year, I'll be representing the Texas Urban Council, the Big Eight, the large urban districts. So together, we certainly will be spending a good deal of time down in Austin to make sure that the funding continues and the investment in our students continue. And I want to thank Elsie and David and your staff for putting this presentation together.
All right. Moving on to 4B, Rise and Shine on 8/19, the 2019-2020 back to school presentation. Is that you, Dr. Scribner?
It is. Thank you very much. So contrary to urban myth, and contrary to what many people think, school districts do not shut down in the summertime. In fact, this is some of our busiest time in preparing for our students and their arrival on August the 19th. We began this months ago, and before we get started, I again wanted to welcome a wholehearted welcome to our brand new campus leaders. They're going to be hitting the ground running. They already have. Today we had a district-wide professional development, and that will continue again tomorrow as we prepare. Then some teacher prep days and getting ready for the first day of school on the 19th. So let's give a big round of applause to our brand new principals as well. And continuing the theme of back to school, I asked our staff to update the board in several areas as to what we have been doing to prepare for the 85,000 souls who will be showing up on Monday morning. And with that, I'll turn it over to Barbara.
Board members, President Ramos, Dr. Scribner, once again this year, we have a multi-platform campaign to make students and parents aware of the first day of school. This year's slogan, Rise and Shine on 8/19, was the result of a contest, and Principal Rudy Valdez of Rosemont Elementary came up with that winning idea. We've used that very catchy phrase in print ads in a wide variety of publications in our area, as well as digital marketing and paid social media. Our radio spots are running on the top 13 radio stations in our area in a variety of formats: Spanish language, urban contemporary, pop, country music, and at least one gospel music station. Our TV spots are running for a full 2 weeks before school began. So Fort Worth ISD students are the stars of these commercials, and we want to give a really special thanks to those kids who gave up a couple of days of their summer vacation to work with us, and they include Jordan Mendez from Arlington Heights, Cameron Sanders from Young Men's Leadership Academy, Davis Rains from Benbrook Middle High School, sister and brother Elena and Antonio Rodriguez from Stripling Middle School, and sister and brother Morgan and Jack Evans from North Highmount Elementary School. So let's watch the videos now.
It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Woo! To wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up.
Fort Worth ISD first day of school is Monday, August 19th. Be there.
It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Woo!
día de escuela en Fort Worth ISD es el lunes 19 de agosto.
And a personal aside, after you spend a couple of hours in the editing booth listening to that song over and over again, you wake up hearing that song. So starting back in January, we held parent focus groups, and we used the information we learned to create an advertising plan. So for the past 5 months, starting in March, we've marketed our pre-K and kindergarten programs to our parents on every platform. In July, we added another dimension to the campaign for 100% online registration for returning students. That campaign has included a dedicated website with links to register as well as FAQ, that robust marketing campaign, which includes media buys, which you saw, social media promotion, printed materials, web banners, community back-to-school events, and more. And then we've had daily internal data reports to guide marketing efforts and daily virtual or in-person meetings with a cross-functional team made up of just about every department you see here. Our focus has been on customer service with daily support for parents beginning on July 1st. We've used telephone, email, in-person assistance, and as of today, we have answered more than 3,500 phone calls, nearly 500 emails, and assisted more than 150 families in person at the administration building. Plus, we've helped scores of other families at various events throughout the city, including our most recent Grayana Una Amistad. We think the district's marketing efforts have paid off. As of this morning, we have 4,168 pre-K students enrolled in Focus with another 643 applications pending. When those pending applications are processed, we will actually be ahead of where we were last year in pre-K and kindergarten. And this is despite increased and new competition from charter schools. We're also finding that our returning students and their parents are embracing our online enrollment process and doing it even earlier than they did last year. Gary?
As you heard Dr. Scribner share earlier, our preparation for the school year started long before the summer. Actually, it started as we approved the school calendar for this current school year. Flex days are 5 days built into this year's calendar that will either be school holidays or days of service for students and for teachers. These 5 days have provided us the ability to refocus a purposeful approach to individualized teacher professional learning. That's right, 5 days, 30 hours of professional learning designed collaboratively between the teacher and the principal so that teachers obtain crucial development front-loaded in the summertime that can be implemented on day 1 of this school year. As you will see on your slide, we had 3,555 teachers attend Flex Day trainings throughout the summer. Those trainings were held in a variety of 1,182 different sessions, all great learning that will be able to be implemented on day 1 of this school year. Here are just a few examples of the sessions that we provided, some of those 1,000 plus sessions. We worked to support struggling readers in some of our sessions. And we also worked on our restorative practices, a 2-day training. This training not just for our teachers, but for all employees with a specific focus on our bus drivers. We also worked with engaging our gifted and talented students by adding depth and complexity to their work, and then also integrating dyslexia strategies. You will see a focus on some of our new history courses, our African and African American History and Culture Institute, as well as working with English language learners around effective instructional practices. You'll see that we work with our college and career readiness teachers on their Avid Summer Institute. And then also working with teachers who support students receiving special education instruction through differentiation strategies. Our on-ramps teachers that will be coming back for year 2, working with our advanced academic students at the high school level. Our early literacy work that we're doing at the elementary level through visual phonics for educators, and also working with a reading workshop for English language learners, as well as a focus on math, especially at the middle school grade, with best practice in mathematics. Our professional learning was not the only new change that we saw this summer. We also had a change in the area of our curriculum and instruction. This summer, we spent time speaking with our teachers, and we heard what our teachers told us. We developed a new online curriculum that actually rolled out today with teachers at district-wide professional learning. Our teachers told us this summer they wanted a curriculum that was easy to navigate. They wanted a platform that allowed them to access curriculum content in just a few simple clicks. And they wanted clearly understood expectations. Our teachers want to know what we teach and when we're supposed to teach it. And then they wanted the support and the resources to deliver high-quality, effective instruction every single day. This is what we've delivered to our teachers. Instructional calendars, scope and sequence documents, unit guides, and interim assessments are all available for all of our different content areas of instruction. Here is a quick screenshot of our new online curriculum platform. This is a SharePoint platform, a resource that all teachers are used to using through their district resources. You will see that it is a graphic interface that makes clicking on the needed information very simple. On the left-hand side of your screen, you will see clearly that content can be accessed either by subject or by grade level. And this is a level of support that our teachers have not had in the last several years. Simple, clear, and supportive. These were the guiding principles behind the new online curriculum, which we are starting to receive some positive feedback from our teachers who just experienced it today.
For the last 5 years, the Business and Finance Department has coordinated professional development opportunities for our campus and administrative support staff with the annual Yearly Enhancement Conference, which is also known as YES. And so we really enjoy putting on this conference on an annual basis. This year, it was held at Pasco High School with just under 300 attendees. We had over 88 work with ISD administrators and other presenters conduct 45-minute trainings on professional learning opportunities that you see here, the myriad of topics that the attendees were able to select from, and it was their choice. And so we developed them because we know that they need the tools and information necessary to do their normal day-to-day business activities, and so we want to give them that professional development. You know, realizing that our campus and support staff are professionals and they need the same training and professional development as our teachers and other staff was the main reason why we started this 5 years ago. And it gets just better every year. And we really appreciate all of our campus and support staff. And we make every effort to make this a very special day for them.
Dr. Washington and I designed professional learning tightly aligned with literacy and instruction for all campus principals and assistant principals. In fact, over 80% of our agenda focused on literacy, instruction, and achieving our board goals. Our day began with over 180 elementary school administrators taking a deep dive into our updated literacy curriculum, unit guides, and assessment blueprints. Mr. Moore and his staff did a phenomenal job in preparing and engaging administrators with these materials. Actually, we stood side by side in delivering a shared vision for curriculum and instruction, including expectations for implementation, especially as it pertains to attaining our district literacy goal. Additionally, our campus administrators received an update on our Attendance Adds Up initiative. Our cross-functional team has improved our attendance codes to get more detailed information on students when they are absent from school to create better support systems. The intent is to improve student attendance and to decrease chronic absenteeism. We closed our day of learning with vertical goal setting. This training focused on supporting campus administrators with developing student goals that are aligned with campus and district goals. Vertical alignment is key for district-wide success. Dr. Washington.
Thank you. Secondary principals and assistant principals centered around improving student outcomes by improving principal practices as they support teachers and principals on campuses. Like elementary, our emphasis was on alignment of district, secondary leadership, and campus goals. Components of effective schools were the key focus for administrators. Principals co-delivered to their peers best practices on Tier 1 instruction, effective feedback, data, and PLC's collective efficacy. Mr. Moore and I stressed the importance of the art of teaching through a shared vision on curriculum and instruction. Dr. Pena has shared the background on Attendance Adds Up. However, instruction was re-emphasized during the Attendance Adds Up updates as students come to school for engaging and relevant instruction. Secondary leadership ended the day with clear expectations on how to improve student outcomes.
As we prepare for the return of our students, our operations and technology departments have been working diligently to ensure that our facilities, our buses, our equipment, and our technology resources are functional, they're safe and clean, and ready for the start of school. Some examples of this work includes transportation, where our bus drivers and bus attendants have been training and preparing to transport almost 20,000 students as they rise and shine for 819. And our mechanics have been doing final maintenance checks on our buses to ensure they are safe. This Friday, our parents will have an opportunity to ride with the bus with their students as our drivers do their final practice on their school runs. In our food service program, Sodexo is preparing to make magic. We will see new recipes and renewed emphasis on customer service and an overall new look. In safety and security, we've been taking steps to ensure that our schools remain the safest place for our students to be. Working with the Fort Worth Police Department and other police partners, we will ensure we return to safe schools. Some of you may have read the Star Telegram article about a full-scale active shooter exercise involving the Fort Worth Police Department, the Fort Worth ISD, and many other partners. The mode has been to continue planning, mitigating, preparing, and training to ensure we have safe and secure schools. Our facilities team has been busy this summer ensuring that our students return to clean schools and groomed grounds. Our HVAC and synergistic staff have been reviewing the operation of our air conditioning equipment. We know we have been battling record heat and plan to be prepared. We heard our staff this week, and we will be running our air conditioning over the weekend to ensure our campuses are cool and ready to welcome our students and staff. We have maintenance staff ready to respond to any reports of issues with air conditioning equipment.
This week is a big week for us. This week is a big week for us. Actually, school started for the academics division last week when we welcomed 400 plus new teachers to Fort Worth ISD at our Jumpstart New Teacher Orientation Academy last week. This week we have all teachers back for a week of professional learning. Monday, our teachers started out the week on campus with their principals. Today and tomorrow, all of our teachers are with district content leaders, learning our new curriculum and receiving content-specific development for the start of the school year. Teachers will finish their week back on campus on Thursday and Friday for another day of campus-based learning, our convocation, and a work day that gets them ready for the start of the school year. In all, this week, we will provide learning for teachers in 35 different subject areas, in 22 different locations, both inside Fort Worth ISD and across this city. All opportunities for great learning to impact high-quality teaching and learning on the first day of school.
Vacation, once again, this year is virtual. We recorded a great panel discussion led by Dr. Scribner and President Ramos with 4 of our outstanding principals on Monday. It's a little less than half an hour of length. And we listened to our colleagues and heard that it is more important to give everyone the gift of time at their campuses as they prepare for the new school year. And so we're doing just that.
Finally, to reiterate the hard work of this board and of our staff, we know that the best investment a community can make in its future is investing in its teachers and investing in its students. And we're very pleased, and we think we are fairly competitive moving forward. We'll have to stay there with our base salary of $54,000 and raises ranging from $5,000 to almost $7,000, and then 3% for administrators and other full-time employees. So we're very, very pleased. We want to recruit, we want to retain, and we want to create a positive culture and climate so our staff and faculty can continue to focus on preparing our students for success in college, career, and life in the 3 in the 3 goal areas of early literacy, middle years math, and college and career preparedness. And that concludes our report, and we're happy to entertain any questions.
Trustee Paz.
Thank you, President Ramos. Thank you. Thank you for 2 wonderful reports. I think this does a great job at setting the tone for the first day of school, and I know I'm excited, maybe even more excited than I was when I showed up today. I do have a couple of questions, and maybe these are more appropriate for another more specific professional development conversation later down the road. But I do want to ask them at this time because just to kind of get our wheels turning. So when we're doing these professional development sessions over the summer, do we request feedback at the end of those sessions from the attendees? Okay, great. And how are we using that information?
Certainly. Every session that we hold has a feedback document. It's an online document that teachers report to us. It's one of the ways we try to capture that feedback from everyone, so before they get their credit, they give us their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
We have a team in PLI that will do analysis, send that out to the presenters as well as the content areas that deliver that professional development, and review those sessions on an ongoing basis, the feedback, to develop continuous improvement plans.
Okay, wonderful. So, are you requiring that people complete that before they get their credits?
That's part of the online
Okay.
system. In order for you to be awarded credit, you complete your evaluation. It's
Okay,
just
so
part of the checkout of the system.
We're getting good response
Yes,
then.
we
Okay.
are.
Okay, good. Or just a good sample size. Wonderful. And so do we, once they've completed their PD and they've gone on and they've got their credit and they go back into the classroom, are we tracking individually the types of professional development that employees have used? Okay.
Certainly. So one of the great things about our Flex Day offerings, as I shared with you, it is a collaborative effort between principal and teacher. Dr. Washington and Dr. Pena have both worked with their principals to set up in the T-test system what the expectation, what a targeted plan for each individual teacher is, look at the offerings that we have so that they're actually, every teacher has an individualized professional learning plan for themselves, and they're following sessions that the teacher and principal develop together, what sessions they should attend.
Okay, great. And so I think you've just answered my question, but I'm going to ask it a little
Sure.
more specifically. So we're then using that information to measure the effectiveness of the PD that they're receiving on actual teaching and learning.
We certainly are. We have areas to improve in that area, but that is definitely where we are going, is to look at how we continue to tweak the offerings that we have for teachers to meet their needs and make sure it's high quality and impactful to the classroom.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Trustee Andar.
Thank you, President Ramos. Barbara, I would like to commend you. I noticed in the video, the Rise and Shine on 819, that there is a nice cross-section of ethnicities and genders, and you also included students with special needs, and I appreciate that, and I wanted you to know that did not go unnoticed. As far as the curriculum that has been rolled out, what is the plan to continue to get feedback from teachers to know that what has been created is truly workable? Because before you are actually working with students, we can look at curriculum and think, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And then we get in there and we start actually using it with kids. So how are we going to continue to get feedback on the new curriculum that's been created?
Certainly. Great question. I appreciate that. This summer, we brought in a group of teachers both at the elementary and secondary level and had an in-depth conversation with them about their experience with our online curriculum documents in the past. Had them preview what our plan was for developing new documents. We're going to continue to have ongoing opportunities for feedback. Each 6 weeks when we roll out new curriculum units, we want to hear from our teachers. We'll be providing opportunities that teachers can come meet with our curriculum teams, the academics division as a whole, and let us know what's working. It will definitely be a continuous improvement approach to how we're doing our curriculum. It's never going to be an end product, but we feel like we're on the right track of having user-friendly materials that teachers can spend their time developing their lessons as opposed to trying to figure out what to teach.
One last question regarding school safety, and that is, it's a concern of mine that not every campus has a campus monitor. So I'm I'm not sure what my question is, other than just expressing my concern that not every campus has a campus monitor, because if there isn't a campus monitor on campus, when the job of what a campus monitor would do, it generally falls on the backs of the principal or the vice principal, because they are the quote unquote available staff, even though they have other job responsibilities as well. So that is just me expressing a concern that not every campus has a campus monitor.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have no more questions or comments from the board. Thank you very much. We'll now be moving on to public comment. Let me remind you that because of the restrictions by the Texas Open Meetings Act, board members may not engage in a verbal exchange about a subject that has not been posted. We will listen and take notes, but the board is prohibited from responding to any inquiries made during a board meeting on any topic not posted on the agenda. However, the board may reply with 1, a statement of specific factual information given in response to the inquiry, 2, a recitation of existing policy in response to the inquiry, or 3, direct a person to visit with staff about the issue. While the board listens to concerns of a general nature and issues of common and individual concern, the board will not hear complaints about specific individual employees or public officers during the public comment session. Speakers shall refrain from mentioning names of individual employees or public officers during their comments. Any employee, parent, or other member of the public is asked to comply with the appropriate grievance policy to have a complaint heard pursuant to the applicable board policy. In accordance with the board policy BED local, speakers shall have a 3-minute time limit, and I ask that you please observe this rule. Furthermore, a speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another speaker. Delegations of 5 or more persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the board with the time not to exceed 5 minutes. First speaker for tonight will be Gregory Wesley. Gregory will be followed by Tammy Gomez.
Superintendent, dignitaries of the school board. My name is Greg Wesley. You can imagine the excitement that I had when the announcement was made in June, when the government said that we were going to get $5,000 as teachers. And I told my wife I can quit my second job. And then the announcement came later that they said that they're going to allocate it in a different way. And so basically I would have to continue to work my part-time job. However, I would like to congratulate you all on the budget that you all have presented to us today. It is very clear and concise. I would also have one question that I would like for you all to look into. I noticed on the slide that the district contribution to teachers was lower than the other allocations to the other people who are going to receive allocations from the HB3 bill. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tammy Gomez. Tammy will be followed by Darius Tidwell.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board President, and board members. I am a local artist and writer, and I'm here to address my concern about the discontinuation of the art program in the Metro Opportunity High School. I've had the occasion to be a guest artist or artist in residence visitor at this school twice in the last 5 years with really great results in terms of the feedback that I got from the students I got to work with in the art classroom. I'm going to read now from my notes. Erika Chalome and myself were invited during Hispanic Heritage Month to present to the students at Metro several years ago. It was apparent that the assembly was inspiring and stirring up enthusiasm because of the level of interactivity during the Q&A segment. A student whose origin school was Pascal High School rose his hand to speak and introduced himself as a 17-year-old and offered this moving testimonial. He said, "Sitting right here, listening to you all speak and recite your words, this is the first time as a student that I have ever felt like I was visible, that I belong here." As a Pascal High School alum, class of 81, I was heartbroken and fulfilled at the same time. Wiping away the tears on my face in that moment, I marveled at the students' honest admission, but was also very dismayed. to realize that so many of our students, as much as they're being served by increases in budgets and these allocations that provide resources and wonderful opportunities for the educators and support staff, that still there are students with that kind of takeaway. They feel invisible because they're not recognizing themselves in the offerings in lots of situations. Artists can bring that opportunity for people to self-reflect, feel that they see themselves in others, in poets of color and visual artists in the community who themselves are often nationally renowned and published. I'm nationally known as a poet and spoken word artist, theater maker, and essayist, and I'm proud to live in Fort Worth and to help represent literary arts in this community. And as a volunteer, having been in the classrooms in not only Metro School, but in other schools and libraries around the community here, I want to offer my expertise and to find and help spotlight those students with potential. In Joe Defoe's class, I was able several years ago to issue a call for submissions for an online literary arts journal that I was a guest editor for in 2017-18, and I was able to find 3 students in that classroom who created original artwork, and they were included in the online journal, which has an international readership. These are opportunities local artists can provide for students if you help provide those opportunities through arts education in the schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Darius Tidwell. Darius will be followed by Mary Boswell.
Good evening, Dr. Scribner and President Ramos and board members. I'm a little nervous. I ain't never done this before. I am a special ed teacher assistant. I've been with Fort ISD for 15 years. And I really had the privilege of working with Fort Worth ISD students, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. My concern is for my salary. I work 2 jobs, and I'm just tired of working 2 jobs for many, many years. And the salary that I get is still not enough from the school job here, Fort ISD, and it's just not enough. I bring home less than $1,800 a month, and I'm struggling. I like what I do. I've been doing it for many years. If I didn't, then I would be doing something else, find another job, another career, but I don't want to do that. If it's possible, if somehow, if the board members and all the staff can at least consider the raise, and especially for aides, because we do a lot of work in the classroom, working with the students, even sometimes paperwork or even more. And I'm just tired. But I'm gonna keep pressing on, and I still want to continue my service here in Fort ISD. So if y'all please help us all, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Boswell. Mary will be followed by Joan Kane.
Thank you, President Ramos, members of the board, Superintendent Scribner. I am Mary Boswell. I'm entering my 3rd year of retirement, 15 of the 20 years at Carter Riverside High School and middle school. I need to shout out to my Eagles, forever in my heart, yo. During graduate school, I was fortunate to be selected as a Marcus Fellow at UNT. This collaboration with public schools and the museums in our area was a model of a comprehensive, authentic experience with art. The statistics are published and at your disposal that prove student academic success is directly correlated to experience in the fine arts. I work in the realm of visual arts. Sadly, I do believe that many of us, we educate the genius right out of children, but not in many of our art classes. I witnessed genius every day, but it wasn't easy. These kids worked very, very hard. As a Socratic educator, I introduced media and technique and challenged original thought. I could actually see them think. Original art is very challenging. It is complex, it's very high level, there are lots of problems to solve. Derivative art should be questioned. Copy to learn, but not to show. Push and never, never, never give up. Art is for everyone who wants to find bliss in your life, who do not mind, in fact, who will embrace hard work. If it is for everyone, then consider everyone. Don't remove art programs. The most troubled kids are often amazingly creative. They are those geniuses still there, still holding on, still fighting for a voice. Please give it to them. Challenge these kids with well-supported, authentic art programs or not. Please do what is right for all students. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Joan Kane. Joan will be followed by Beverly Fletcher.
President Ramos, Superintendent Scribner, members of the board, thank you so much for your time and for your services. We do appreciate it. I basically am here to plea for reconsideration of related service personnel. I'm representing our occupational therapists, as that is my field, also our physical therapists and our speech pathologists, all of which require an advanced degree even to become beginning on the baseline of salary. They cannot even practice or have their license without an advanced degree. So when you look at the scale of what is required, how much money and time was required for them to even be licensed to practice in the state of Texas and to provide those services to our students, to allow our special needs people to access a free public education. I think those are numbers that might not be represented. And unfortunately, even though our supervisor, Lori Coletti, did go and speak to the Senate, she didn't cry, but she did attempt to advocate for us in this bill. I noticed that we were excluded from it, and of course we were all saddened by that because the nurses were placed in there, so we knew that someone was clear that people in the medical field do have an important component to provide to our students, especially when we try to push for more inclusion in the classrooms and success by those people who have a special need but also have special talents to provide. I think that's very important. I also wanted just to make the point that not only about our requirements just for minimal abilities, but also the fact of how much money is provided through the SHARS program is directly related to primarily to our staff and what that 25 million, I don't quote me on that because I could be inaccurate, but that when we were getting our in-service again today, I asked the lady that was providing the training if she could give me a guesstimate on the cost, and 25 million is a pretty good chunk to provide revenue back to the district. So I would implore you to, especially as you reconsider and you're working through the real bones of the subject and trying to, by the end of the year, come up with the real numbers, that you would reconsider those costs that we provide. And even when, thank you for your time.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it.
Next is Beverly Fletcher. Beverly will be followed by Stephen Poole.
good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here. I want to say thank you, President Ramos, esteemed board members, and amazing, wonderful Dr. Scribner. As you know, I am a fan. I worked and gave my heart and soul here to Fort Worth ISD for 43 years, recently retiring because of my husband who was sick and better. And my heart is with the children, as I mentioned at our last meeting. I know yours is also. I also want to say thank you to Norm Robbins and Quentin Phillips for bringing us back and letting us be on the board agenda so that we can have more say-so on this important, needed area to have a full art program at Metro for all the children there. And then I did want to say we have a prepared folder for you to give you some input on why the arts are important. And as you read through that, you can see there are many reasons they're important, not only emotionally, academically, socially, but to become a fulfilled citizen. And that's what we want to have, prepare all students for success. And I really believe that the arts do that and that this program at Metro is vital. I also want to ask my cohorts here that believe in this same thing to hold up our posters that we brought of all Metro students and Metro artwork to show you some of the things that have been created there and the beautiful children. Now, I put in this folder for your benefit 2 photographs, one in the front and one in the back. And I want you to bring that out and look at that beautiful face. That is pure joy. So it's in the front and the back. In the front of your folder, you see these young people in the art classroom creating, focused, happy. We want happy children. We want people that have joy because that's the best way to learn, isn't it? When we have joy. In the back, there's more joy. So I hope you enjoy seeing those children because that's who I'm representing. We want those children to have every benefit. We don't want half benefits. There's some talk that there will be a half teacher coming from middle level. If that half teacher comes from middle level, the middle level students are going to be negatively impacted. That teacher will have to have one whole planning period, one whole period to drive. That takes 2 periods away. So that teacher will only have 2 periods at each school. That is not enough for those students to have a full, good program. You're just putting a Band-Aid on it if you have that as your idea. And when I came tonight, I had the hope that we would have a fully funded, full-time art teacher. That is still my hope. And I thank you for this new year. I thank you for all of you. Thank you for this time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stephen Poole. Stephen, you will be followed by Brandy. And my apologies if I missed this. Courtney Hall, I believe. Thank you.
President Ramos, thank you for allowing me to follow Beverly Fletcher. I'm Stephen Poole with UEA, and I'm here to talk about the employee raises tonight in the presentation. First and foremost, we're going to have to give thanks where thanks are due, and that's the state legislature for funding these raises. Our state representatives like Charlie Guerin, Ramon Romero, Chris Turner, Senator Powell should be commended for what they've done for our district. And to the gentleman who's the teacher assistant, thank you for everything you do. You have a special halo waiting for you. But I also know that special halo doesn't pay the bills here on earth. My mother was a school secretary, and when she retired, she was just making $19,000. So I know how hard it was for her and my dad to struggle to raise a family on that salary. But you all should be commended for what you've done tonight. It is a good step and a first good step on addressing the needs of the employees and making our district competitive. The state kicked in money, but you put money on top of it. And that shows the true commitment to the employees. And for not only teachers, but for our lowest paid employees, our teacher assistants, our cafeteria workers, our bus drivers, it's going to make a world of difference in their life immediately in their paycheck. And we know we have more work to come, and we're here to work with you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Brandy. Brandy will be followed by Gingerhead Gearhart.
Superintendent Scheibner and President Ramos,
Board. Thank you for having me. My name is Brandy Cottingham. I'm the Executive Director of BRC, which is a nonprofit organization here in Fort Worth that, with a mission for outreach with children that live in our local shelters. We just finished this week with 10 weeks of summer camp for the children that live in Safe Haven. That was our focus this summer. After I was here last month, the one thing that I was reminded of is that everybody in this room is of a like heart. We are here choosing to leave a legacy for children, to raise our children in a powerful way so that they can be responsible, balanced, loving, joyful adults. So I think that we're all here to find a way of how can we collaborate together to make sure that all those pieces are put in place while they are forming, while their psyche is forming. And I am someone that runs into the fire. So I spend my days on the front line of this, of being with these children. And so I thought maybe the most powerful thing I could do is tell you the story of Loomis. Loomis is a Fort Worth ISD student that came to me in camp. I was told beforehand that he was defiant, that he was having trouble in school, that he was not being able to be educated, and that other programs that were set up for him, he was either kicked out of or was not able to be accepted into. And so, of course, I received him with open arms and said, great, I don't use the term defiant. I don't see children as defiant, so I will be in curiosity and wonderment about what's going on with this child, because I believe that we should just remove words like that from our minds when dealing with children. If we have a defiant child, so to speak, maybe we should check the adults that were in that child's life, and let's do something different with the child. So as I worked with Loomis, I quickly realized that he was using a lot of red in his pieces, and I sent his work off to a psychiatrist who came back and gave me what my intuition was saying was that we have severe learning differences and some trauma in his life, which is what I felt. As we continued to work with Loomis was coming to the studio 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, very committed to be there. There were times that he did shut down. There were times that he was unmovable. There were times that I could see what maybe a teacher was saying was defiant. As we worked through that, what I also discovered was that Loomis didn't have a lot of working memory. So I could say something and turn around and walk away and come back and say, well, Loomis, why did you not get that handled? And he's looking at me like blank, like he just had forgotten it as soon as I had given him the direction. Or if I spoke too many words.
Thank you. Next, we have Ginger. Ginger will be followed by Arnoldo Hurtado.
I'd just like to say a very short thing. This earth would not know mankind's past without the arts. The very first human expressed himself that way. I have a very ancient human flute made of bone, a human-made flute. And it's beautiful. They were discoverers, but they always left us with the trail of our human past and of knowledge. So the arts for people here are wonderful, but the Metro kids need them so much. So I thank you for listening to me, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next is Arnoldo, and then we'll be followed by our final speaker, Miguel Argumedo.
Good evening, board, everybody here. My name is Arnoldo Hurtado, and I am here as a Fort Worth ISD alumnus, as a former Fort Worth ISD teacher, and a community organizer in the north side of Fort Worth. I recently did a really big, cool project with Northside High School, Mariachi Escuelas de Plata, and we did a huge mural on the side of a grocery store that was abandoned. It looked like urban blight. So I have a little bit of experience in organizing and also using the arts as a a tool of change in our communities, in our society. And the issue at hand here is the school board approving a budget that is helping a lot of adults, not every adult, but a lot of adults. And in the midst of this, is taking away something from the students. And we were told last time that it came down to numbers, right? Everything today is calculated with numbers. And that's not just here, that's society at large. Those are the times we're living in. But I think we need to bring it back to reality of the human, of the child, of development, of societal change, of our communities. What's the real human impact? And I know that we can keep having this type of conversation, but I'm going to try to speak the numbers language today because I think that's how people, that's the language people speak in some instances. So I try to find the formula of how this works, and it seems like, looking at the big picture, I did a little investigating. We're taking, let's say, 30 students in a classroom at Metro Opportunity High School that's losing an art class. And we're taking that away from 30 students, but we're creating 2 jobs for adults in the equity department under the Fort Worth ISD. This is real. So you're telling me that we're taking 30 students and we're saying no to you, but we're creating 2 positions for adults in the equity department of all places. How does that add up? That's what I'm trying to figure out. That formula just doesn't work if we want to talk numbers. So that's the perspective I want to leave you with today is we're taking away from children, potentially 30 or more, that's just a number, for 2 under the equity department. My question to you is that equitable? I think we know the answer. And so we have to look for the solution now, right? So the solution is, let's fix that. How you fix that, I don't know how things work back there, but there is a fix.
Thank you.
Let's get the full-time teacher there at Metro. Thank you.
Our last and final speaker for this evening is Miguel Argumedo.
Hello. Thank you, Cinto Ramos, and everyone from the board. I have a question before I start. So one of my fellow classmates couldn't make it today, so I was wondering if I could read off a written statement that he sent me by any chance.
Sure, you got 3 minutes, Miguel.
Oh, yeah, right. My bad. So his name is, these are the words of Edgar Sandoval in our Pasco class of 2019 graduate. And he says, "Good evening to all here and who are listening. As y'all may know, classes for the fall semester will commence here in about a week, and I could not make it tonight as I have a TCC orientation to attend to. I know you're all busy handling pressing issues in our community, so I won't use much of y'all's time. I would just like to state that Mr. Ricky Clark is an upstanding member in our community. The students follow him because he's a strong, articulate leader that gives a voice to the voiceless. Before MBK, I had doubts about who I was, and I had no road to follow. Nobody to look to when I was lost. But with MBK and Mr. Ricky Clark, I've got a strong support group that will help me if I'm down or if I've lost my way, because that's what we do. That's what MBK is. MBK is looking out for you and for your community. We've built bridges, not walls. Our friendships transcended race and ethnic background. It is thanks to Mr. Ricky and MBK that I am where I am today, but I am just one example. I'm sure there are hundreds more in the community today who feel just as strongly as I do, who will say the same. I trust you all will make the right decision, because as a Fort Worth ISD student, I never felt as though I was felt. I'm thankful to have had such strong, competent leaders such as yourself. Thank you. And so with that being said, I'm here to discuss about B5, approved consults to provide mentoring services for the Fort Worth ISD My Brother's Keeper program. And I want to push on how we should keep the program, because the reason is the way that it has impacted me as a person is kind of the same as my friend Edgar. I was lost as a freshman and as a sophomore. By that time, I kind of looked at myself as voiceless. I was just a number or a student in the statistic. I looked at myself as a statistic. And from there, after meeting with MBK and Miss Riki and Aman and a lot of people that I've made connections with, it gave me kind of a self-purpose, made me realize that I'm not just a statistic. If I don't have a voice, then I create my own voice type of deal. And, oh, yeah, my bad.
Thank you, Miguel.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
And I want to note his good friend Anissa, who's here with him, the original founding member of, if you'll see on her shirt, the My Sister's Keeper in Fort Worth ISD, didn't wait for any adults to do the work. She started it herself at Pascal. Good job, Anissa. So with that, we want to thank you for sharing your thoughts this evening. At this time, we will recess and reconvene in regular session in the board conference room. Okay. As board president, I'm making the following statement in accordance with board policy BBFA local. This is a reminder to all board members of the legal conflict of interest requirements and disclosure requirements requires you may have for matters under consideration on the agenda for this meeting. If required by law, board members shall recuse themselves from all discussion and shall abstain from voting on any matter pertaining to such a disclosure. Moving on to consent agenda items. Do we have any questions concerning consent agenda items for Dr. Scribner's team? Ms. Jackson.
Page 86, My Brother's Keeper. This is an RFP for a period of performances from the date of this award through 2024. That would be a 5-year contract. Do we generally give 5-year contracts to mentoring programs? I want to make this disclaimer. I'm fully in support of this program, but I want to make sure if we give 5 years to one mentoring group that we are equitable, I'll repeat it, equitable to all. So I agree in sustaining programs. I agree that they need to be committed to, but I also want to make sure that we're doing the right thing with the children's money.
Both Cynthia Rincon and Sherry Breed can help shed some light on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Ramos, board members. We actually have a clarification on that piece. The RFP actually is not a continuous 5-year contract. It's a 1-year contract with the option of 4 more 1-year renewals.
Perfecto.
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify and make sure.
Yep.
We also have that same clarification on page 121. It indicates that the agreement is for 5 years at $176,155.53 for years 1 through 5, but that is actually the cost for each of those years. Okay, just want to make that clarification as well.
So can we expect that as a standard of practice here, that when we have a 5-year contract, that we will have 1-year check-ins or 2-year check-ins? Is that something you all?
That has been our practice, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And will continue to be so.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, CJ?
I have one about the these renewing contracts H. It says that there'll be updates and stuff, but what I'd like to see is, can we have an update this time next year? You know, are we really seeing 32 out of the 40 promised job placements for this student population? And yeah,
Page 243.
sorry. So I, you know, something like this, I think it was what, 40,000 for the year, you know, so that's something like that can maybe tend to go under the radar because it's, you know, not a big number. And I just would hate to see us renew that when only 12 of the 40 students have been placed in jobs.
So our assistant superintendent of special education is here this evening, and she can provide that information, but we are
Okay.
placing all students
Okay.
in monitoring.
Hi.
Yes.
Our new assistant superintendent for special education. This is your debut. This is your moment.
How exciting. Yes, we will actually do that because, like I said, I like to monitor and collect data on the progress of these. Marriott Foundation has been around for a long, long time, but it is always something we want to consider because if we have the services that we can help within our district, we want to take advantage
Right.
of that. If we're going to offer it to 40 students, we want to make sure
Right. I
those
mean, it
get
basically
employed.
sounds like their, you know, their
Yeah.
goal is 32
Yeah.
of the 40
Right.
students placed. And so I just want to make sure before we renew again,
Sure.
they're on track. I mean, maybe it's 30, not 32.
I'm glad you're
but-
giving me a year to do
Right.
that.
But I just want to make sure that when we renew this time next year, it's,
Absolutely.
you know, not
Yeah.
way under
No,
promise
I'll make
or
it.
something.
We'll definitely do that. We'll have a
Okay.
progress rate.
And then I noticed that there was only one response to the RFP. Is
It's it's a sole source.
Is that
Yes.
just because what the Marriott Foundation does is so
Yes.
specific?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions on
I've got one more.
Toby?
Page 133, the iStation use at the Leadership Academies, just clarification on it, let the board know the reason we're using it, the rationale.
Sure.
And what we hope to find out with our students?
This is just for our leadership academies, the 4 elementaries for pre-K through second, and it's just used for interventions for tier 2 and tier 3 students. You know, our K through 2 students at our leadership academies have an extended hour. iStation offers a package that targets interventions from the student's level and differentiates that instruction. And with our partnership under 1882 and Texas Wesleyan, this was a program that they opted in, that they're using their funds for.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
So the contract is with the 4 leadership academies. They are able to opt in and opt out, and they have funds that they accumulate through their 1882 dollars, and this is one of the programs they have selected through those funds that are available to them. We do purchase it through the district. The contract is through the district because we manage a lot of their contracts still or their services, and this is one that they have opt in.
Any other questions? CJ?
I have a question about the code of conduct, and I think the numbers I have are a little different, so I can't give you a page number. But
That's an action
That's
item.
action.
oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was on the consent. Sorry.
Action item.
Yeah, we moved it.
Yeah, we'll get that one out in front.
I'll have to ask you.
Any other questions on consent agenda? Okay. So this concludes our discussion of agenda items. We will now recess for executive session in the board conference room for executive session. Well, sorry. No, we're not recessing just yet onto that. But this does conclude our discussion of consent agenda. Thank you, Steph.
My name is Richard Siebesman. I'm the program director for the Rainwater Charitable Foundation Swimming Lesson Program. I was a swimming coach at TCU for 38 years. Retired 2 years ago in 2017. I've been working with the Rainwater Foundation Swimming Lessons for the past 8 years. We teach at the Fort Worth ISD pool, Wilkerson Grimes, and we work with the City Mobile Rec Program as well as the Fort Worth Children's Partnership.
I'm Alex Sharp. I'm a supervisor here, and I've been working with the Rainwater Foundation for 8 years. The little ones, we start out with just kind of building confidence and helping them be comfortable in the water. We do getting their face wet to getting their head wet, and then they do the back floats, so they're staying on top of the water and floating. And then we do alligator, so they learn how to swim with their face in the water and kicking their feet. We kick on the kickboard with super straight arms. So just kind of building the confidence at the lower level. And then once they get to the upper level, we do a lot of more like strokes and whatnot. So they learn freestyle, breaststroke, they learn how to dive into the pool, and then they learn how to tread water. When our kids can do a length of backstroke, usually they swim from one side of the pool to the other, that's 50 meters. They get a medal on the last day, and so that's a really big accomplishment. That's something they really work towards each year. Starting in the lower levels, they know, like, one day I'm going to get to be swimming the length of the pool and having a medal. So that's something they really strive to do.
Our instructors have all been through swimming lessons in our program at TCU, and we pattern this after the program we do at TCU. They all know what they're doing. They all have experience, and it's fun to watch them and their passion at teaching.
I think my favorite part of this is seeing the progress that's made from the first day they walk in here to the last day. I mean, just seeing them have so much fun and then gain confidence and learn how to swim. They're always really nervous when they get here, and it's kind of our job to ease their worries. But once they get in the water, they get so excited and they have so much fun.
I'll tell you, this program is so rewarding. Watching the kids, some of them that were scared to get in the very first day, now they can go underwater and float and kick on the kickboard. That may sound like that's pretty easy, but it's not if you've never been in the water before. The other thing is watching some of these kids make it an entire length of the pool swimming correctly, not just dog paddling, but swimming correctly. It's very rewarding for the instructors and for everyone associated with the program. Safety is our top priority here. We have the kids in the water one at a time. We have 14 instructors. They'll work with 60 to 70 kids. We have 8 lifeguards that are watching the pool the entire time. In addition to that, every kid sits back 3 feet and they get in the water one at a time. So our entire mission is safety, safety, safety.
So a lot of what I do as a supervisor is make sure everyone stays in the white tile. The dark tile kind of is a safety hazard. We don't want anyone to fall in, so I make sure everyone's sitting on their bottom and sitting in the white. We have approximately 60 to 70 kids per 30-minute period. They're bussed in from different locations around Fort Worth. And then once they get here, we get 60 kids in the water, and then we get 60 kids out of the water and another 60 kids in within a 2-minute period. It's pretty impressive to watch us change our groups, and our instructors do a phenomenal job with all these children. Texas leads the nation in drowning, and this program is so helpful to teach kids how to be safe, how to be able to get to the side. We'll teach over 550 kids to swim this summer. Mainly our entire goal is to make sure they feel comfortable and are safe in the water. This program is such a great benefit to the community and all these children. We have 5 to 12-year-old kids here, and it's just a phenomenal learning experience, and it's such a safety means for the children of Fort Worth.
she's the epitome of a student athlete. You know, being an ESPN fan, I mean, I watch those all the time, and so I just think it's phenomenal.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the WNBA Dallas Wings, the one and only Skylar Diggins-Smith.
How you doing? Congratulations. It's an amazing platform for athletes, and you know, it's our one award show that we have.
And if it wasn't for this young lady putting in so much hard work and just getting after it every single day and setting the bar this high for all her teammates, we probably wouldn't have won very many games.
It shows me that anybody can do anything that you want as long as you put your mind to it, don't quit, stay strong.
It was hard. I mean, living from hotel to hotel is very expensive. I really didn't have it, but we had to do I had to do what I had to do to raise my girls.
I just felt like her story had to be heard, especially with her being homeless and still making the A's and B's.
Danielle, I'm so proud of you. All the hard work has paid off.
I wanted to present you with an honorary SP.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who supported me through my whole life, and I wouldn't be where I am without you guys.
Welcome, everyone, to this celebration of excellence. The men and women who we are honoring today come from all walks of life, all parts of the city, and very diverse careers and endeavors. What they share is determination, dedication, a passion for their work, and a Fort Worth ISD education. It is with great pleasure that we add them now to the Fort Worth ISD Wall of Fame. Listen to this. It's the genie who steals the show. When Major Attaway gets unbottled, you can feel the show start to levitate. Major Attaway has played the genie on Broadway since 2016. He attended Arlington Heights High School. But today, Major Attaway is back home, and we add him to the Fort Worth ISD Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Major Attaway. Emily Holt Crocker is a renowned choral composer, conductor, consultant, and of course, teacher. She began at Meadowbrook Elementary, Meadowbrook Junior High, and Eastern Hills High School, where she graduated in 1968. Let's welcome Miss Emily Holt Crocker. Gerald Griffin, a 1952 graduate of Arlington Heights High School. In 1964, he joined NASA. Amazingly, he found himself working with a Pascal grad, astronaut Alan Bean. In 1970, Jerry's assignment was to lead the lunar landing for Apollo 13. But only 56 hours into that flight, an oxygen tank on board exploded. Jerry and his mission control team scrapped the moon landing plans and put everything they had into getting Apollo 13 and its 3 astronauts back to Earth safely. Let's celebrate Mr. Jerry Griffin. Mrs. Opal Lee is a force of good. She attended Cooper Street Elementary and graduated from I.M. Terrell High School in 1943. Ms. Lee founded the Community Food Bank and co-founded Citizens Concerned with Human Dignity. Earlier this year, there was a ribbon cutting for Opal's Farm, a program based on her vision to provide fresh produce to residents of the United Riverside neighborhood. She made national news in recent years for her symbolic walks to Washington to convince Congress and the President to declare Juneteenth a national holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Opal Lee. Burl Yarbrough association with Texas League Baseball goes back to childhood. But never in Burl's young mind did he expect to one day be the president of one of the premier teams in the league, the San Antonio Missions. During his tenure, the Missions have won 6 Texas League championships. He is a 4-time Texas League Executive of the Year. And in 2016, he was named Texas League Hall of Famer. He graduated from Western Hills High School in 1975. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burl Yarbrough. I.M. Terrell High School has turned out a remarkable number of creative, critically acclaimed musicians. We're honoring one of them today, the late Dewey Redman. One night, in a San Francisco jazz club, he played to an audience that included John Coltrane. They ended up playing sessions together, and Mr. Redman said he learned at every opportunity from the great Coltrane. Representing the Redman family is Chris Walk, the Fort Worth ISD Executive Director of Visual and Performing Arts. Let's please recognize Dr. Redman. While the Wall of Fame honors extraordinary alumni, it also says to our students that you can do it. We thank Major Attaway, Emily Holt Crocker, Gerald Griffin, Opal Lee, the late Dewey Redman, Burl Yarborough for making your district, our district, very, very proud. Thank you to all of you.
I belong here. That's so cool.
There's a place all parents want for their young child, where learning happens in leaps and bounds in literacy, math, and social skills, where teachers are state certified and super suited to provide structure, encouragement, and a nurturing, safe space for every child.
And that place is Fort Worth ISD, pre-K and kindergarten. Your child belongs here. This is Fort Worth, the way we see it every day. But let's take the 1,000-foot view, and you'll see that this is also Fort Worth ISD. Our 148 campuses, schools in every neighborhood, are preparing students for success in college and for tomorrow's workforce. So, no matter who you are, what you do, where you live, you belong here. Fort Worth ISD is a good place to be for a lot of good reasons. But don't just take our word for it. The Texas Education Agency says our most recent academic gains are among the best. The TEA named us one of 2 top districts in Texas in year-to-year positive growth in academic achievement. Our gains were across the board, including substantial increases in the percentage of students reading on grade level. And we've cut the number of campuses rated improvement required in half. Among those moving up to meeting the standard were 5 schools that were reconstituted as leadership academies. After investing time, top talent, and money at the campuses, including a $1 million gift from the Rainwater Charitable Trust, the accountability gains at all 5 campuses were in double digits. There's also our nationally recognized commitment to equity.
And I'm calling
the Fort Worth ISD Board of Education received the 2018 CUBE Award for Urban School Excellence from the Council of Urban Boards of Education, where educational equity is one of the core measures. Then there's our scholarship dollars. The class of 2018 earned a record-setting $102.6 million in merit scholarships and grant offers. That's up from $36 million just 3 years ago. At the front end of the education journey, our 4,000 littlest learners are getting a great start in Fort Worth ISD pre-K. How are you? And their parents got to register them online instead of in-line, as our district moved to an all-online registration process. There's also this space right here, our new I Am Terrell Academy for STEM and VPA. From day one, this campus was buzzing with creative energy in labs, an incredible makerspace, and on the visual and performing arts side, in studios, practice rooms, and a world-class performance hall. And talk about engaging. The Cowan Humanities Academy at I Am Terrell makes us all want to go back to school. What does he say there? As construction on I Am Terrell was wrapping up, a new capital improvement program was already in high gear. Thanks to you, the voters, our record-setting 2017 bond is transforming learning spaces district-wide. The Fort Worth community is also all in for elementary literacy with Read Fort Worth, which is doing an outstanding job of aligning its partners, resources, and strategies to support our district's 100 by 25 literacy initiative to get all 3rd graders reading on grade level by the year 2025. Led by Mayor Price and Matt Rose, it's a perfect example of collective impact for bigger and quicker results, especially where they're needed most. As we've said before, we can't do it without you.
You belong here.
Okay, in accordance with the open meetings law, the board opened the meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the boardroom with a quorum present, recessed and reconvened open session in the board conference room, adjourned regular session, convened executive session, and then adjourned executive session, and now reconvened open session at 7:36 p.m. in the boardroom with a quorum present. No consent agenda items were pulled, so we will move on and, well, I'm sorry. So we're just moving on to accepting consent agenda. So do I have a motion accepting consent agenda items? We have a motion by Trustee Paz and a second by Trustee Jackson. Do we have any discussion on consent agenda items? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. Moving on to 13A. So this one, no agenda items were removed. So we'll move on to 13B, personnel. No personnel appointments this evening, right? Okay. And then 14A, B, and C will not be necessary tonight. So moving on to 14D. Take action in the current Palazzolo lawsuit to ratify the district's filing of its July 12, 2019 motion for rehearing with the Fort Worth Court of Appeals and move to authorize the filing of any other appropriate appeal-related documents. I believe we have a motion by Mr. Robbins.
Yes, thank you, President Ramos. In the current Palazzolo lawsuit, I move to ratify the district's filing of its July 12, 2019 motion for rehearing with the Fort Worth Court of Appeals and move to authorize the filing of any other appropriate documents with the Fort Worth Court of Appeals, the filing of a petition for review with the Texas Supreme Court, and the filing of any other appeal-related documents as the district's litigation counsel considers appropriate.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Robbins and we have a second by Trustee Paz. Any discussion? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. We have 7-4 and 1 abstaining. Moving on to 14E. Approve endorsement of candidate for Texas Association of School Boards, Board of Directors, Region 11, Position A. With this motion, if someone would make a motion with a name of a candidate. No, not within our group, but the group that was folks like overall. It's right. Yeah, here you go. It was on your agenda. Names are on here as well. A motion by Trustee Phillips. Who's your motion, sir?
I motion that we vote to endorse Justin Chopper, Arlington ISD.
Okay, so we have a motion from Trustee Phillips to nominate Justin Chapa to the TASB Board of Directors, Region 11, Position A. We have a second by Trustee Evans. Any discussion? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 7-4 and 1 person abstaining. Moving on to 14F, approve selection of a delegate and an alternate to the 2019 Texas Association of School Boards Delegate Assembly meeting on September 21st, 2019. I have a motion. If I'm not mistaken, I think since I'm the TASB representative, is that right? I think I've got to be the delegate, and then so I'd like to see who would. No?
Just for clarification, at last year's TASB conference, I was the delegate, and Mrs. Moss was our director.
Okay.
So as a director, she already has a seat in the delegation, but whoever we send as the delegate is not, or is an additional person.
Okay.
And since I did it last year, I'm going to go ahead and say not it.
Thank you for catching that. So, looking for a motion to see who'd be willing to serve as a delegate and then an alternate to the TASB meeting. And obviously, I'll be there anyway already. Who would like to step up? So we have a motion by Trustee Phillips. What do you have, Trustee Phillips?
Nominate myself.
So you nominate yourself to be the delegate. Would you like to make a motion for an alternate, or would you like?
NIL looks like he wants to do it. I also moved that NIL will be the alternate.
So we have a motion on the floor for Trustee Phillips to be the delegate, Trustee Luevanos to be an alternate. Discussion, we have Ashley Paz.
So I just said not it, but in all seriousness, it is a great honor to be able to serve as a delegate. And I think that having multiple voices in the delegation is a great thing. And this is how Fort Worth ISD has our priorities heard before TASB. So thank you for serving.
Thank you, Trustee Paz.
Trustee Luevanos, in light of our agreements that we did at our workshop, would that work for you, sir? All right. So we have a motion by Trustee Phillips and a second by Trustee Jackson. Any more discussion? Looks like no discussion, so let's please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. We have our representatives. 14G, approved district teaching permits for non-core CTE courses. I have a motion. I have a motion by Trustee Jackson and a second by Trustee Paz. Any discussion on this item? Looks like Trustee Jackson.
I want to thank, again, the CTE department. These are very difficult positions to fill, as Trustee Dar mentioned in the back, and we're doing a great job of doing this, and I appreciate the board's support to CTE to make sure these folks get in the classroom with our kids so we can prepare them for their careers.
Thank you, Trustee Jackson. Looks like no more discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. Moving on to 14H, approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Relay Graduate School of Education and Fort Worth ISD to allow teaching interns at district campuses. We have a motion by Trustee Jackson. Do I have a second? I have a second by Trustee Luevanos. Any discussion on this item? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. Moving on to 14I, approve the 2019-2020 general fund budget amendment for the period ended July 31st, 2019. We have a motion. We have a motion by Trustee Jackson and a second by Trustee Luevanos. Any discussion on this item? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. 14J, approve the 2019-2020 Student Code of Conduct. I have a motion. A motion by Trustee Jackson. Do we have a second? We have a second by Trustee Robbins. Discussion, Trustee Paz.
Yes. So there, we have several things that are being added to the Code of Conduct because of changes in state law. One of them is the Senate Bill 11, and among others. Anytime we have new rules that are impacting discipline and discipline measures that are taken, there is I think a concern, or I don't know, I think it's just important to ask the question that how are we going to enforce these laws with fidelity to our racial equity work and ensure that we're not creating implementation that is causing unintended consequences for our children of color, who typically end up being the ones who get the recipient of those consequences.
Well, I think the current mechanism that we have in our district before a child is removed allegations, concerns, or recommendations are first heard by a neutral party. And after all that information requires collected, then the outcome is decided based on that, decided on mitigating factors and every information available to that department.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that a little bit. One of the things Ms. Breed is working very closely with Dr. Washington and Dr. Pena, and recently we have been working with our restorative practice specialists as well as on our campus and doing direct work with our racial equity work across the district. That includes our assistant principals who are mainly on our campuses who are in charge of our discipline and our student code of conduct. Our assistant principals have been receiving additional training through our assistant principal meetings that are led by our two chiefs of leadership. And we have been putting a very strong focus on that, but it will continue to go even stronger as we are working to expand our equity department through the specialists as well as additional support through that department. So is it perfect? Are we trying to get better? Are we putting it to the forefront? Yes. And we are being very vocal and very transparent about our students and how they're treated and being fair and looking at our data and showing our data and asking for not only reflection, but for action steps for our campuses as well.
And if I could add just a little bit to that, Dr. Pena and Dr. Washington and I are planning to sit down and plan some things for our campus administrators because, as you've heard from several conversations in regards to discipline, we want to bring it to the attention of not only principals, assistant principals, and then put a plan in place. We've had some plans, but we want to even tighten up even more because we've also brought in our, I still call them the research department. They're working very closely to bring us the data, so we're going to use the data to help guide us as well. Oh, I did want to share that the restorative practice specialist had training with the bus drivers. I think Mr. Moore presented it, but I did have an opportunity to go by both days, and it seemed to be well received from the drivers, tailored for their needs.
Thank you. So it looks like no more discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. 14K, approve contract renewals for educational technology, digital learning, Texas Student Data Systems, Public Education Information Management System, and Region 11 Telecommunication Network for the 2019-2020 school year. I have a motion. Or I think it shows K. We still move on? We're on 14K. It shows J. There we go. So we have a motion by Trustee Jackson and a second by Trustee Luevanos. Do you have any discussion on this item? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 7-4 and one person abstaining. 14L, approve the purchase of the Curriculum Support Services Package, TEACS Resources subscription through Region 11. Do I have a motion? We have a motion by Trustee Jackson. We have a second by Trustee Luevanos. Any discussion? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 7-4 and one person abstaining. 14M, approve adoption of resolution in order of special election. We have a motion. Motion by Trustee Phillips. We have a second. We have a second by Trustee Paz. Any discussion? Looks like no discussion. Please move to vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. 14N, approve resolution in order for election services for the November 5th, 2019 for the ISD Board of Education special election. We have a motion by Trustee Phillips and a second by Trustee Evans. Any discussion? We have Ms. Toby Jackson.
Thank you, President Ramos. If staff could let us know when this information is going to be posted. I've had multiple calls about it. And if you could just tell us where we could refer people.
I actually sent the board, the trustees, a timeline. And then we also, after tonight, will have everything posted.
So on the website?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
And any questions can be directed to our Director of Policy, Dr. Amanda Coleman.
Okay, looks like no more discussion on this one, so let's please move to vote. Toby. Yep. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. At this time, we're going to move on to the final action agenda item. It's 14-0, which will be to consider the level 3 vendor grievance for Conrail. As we prepare for that, we ready? Okay. We'll begin this process. So the purpose of this portion of the meeting is to hear the level 3 grievance of Conrail. This hearing is being conducted during a duly called meeting of the Fort Worth Independent School District Board of Trustees convened on Tuesday, August 13, 2019. This hearing is being held pursuant to the district's grievance policies. Notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. I am Jacinto Ramos Jr., Board President. For the record, a quorum is present. The following board members are present: Toby Jackson, Ashley Paz, Anael Luevanos, Quentin Phillips, Karen C.J. Evans, Andar, and Norman Robbins. Also present is Ben Castillo, an attorney who may advise the board on legal issues related to the grievance during the hearing or deliberations. We are meeting to consider the level 3 grievance of Conrail. Conrail, would you and any representative here with you please state your name for the record?
Gerald Alley, President and CEO of Conrail.
Okay.
Michael Smith, Vice President of Construction.
Okay.
Wesley Manus, Legal Counsel for Conrail.
Okay. And then will the individual responding on behalf of the administration please state your name?
Alexander Athanison.
Okay. I will now ask each board member of this board whether he or she is able to serve as an impartial member of this body and to arrive at a decision based solely upon the record in this manner and information presented at this meeting, and not on any other information he or she may have heard prior to this meeting. Any member not able to serve should say so now and ask to be excused. Okay. So a recording of this hearing must be made. Please avoid talking when others are speaking so that the recording will reflect the proceedings accurately. This hearing will be conducted as follows. Conrail and the administration will each have a total of 10 minutes to make their presentations to the board. This is not a formal legal proceeding. No strict rules of evidence or procedure will apply. There is no cross-examination. The board is not required to consider documentation or claims not previously submitted or issues not previously raised. There will be an opportunity for board members to ask questions. However, board members are not subject to questioning by the grievant, administration, or legal counsel. As the grievant, Conrail, you will present first. Ben Castillo will keep time for the presentations and will notify you when you have 2 minutes remaining, or would prefer some other minute marker. Would you prefer some other type of minute marker?
That's fine.
Okay. Any time remaining of your 10 minutes after your initial presentation can be used by you for rebuttal after the administration's response. The administration's presentation will follow Conrail's initial presentation. Mr. Athanison, Ben Castillo will notify you when you have 2 minutes remaining. Or would you prefer some other type of minute marker?
2 minutes is fine, sir.
Okay. Any time remaining of your 10 minutes after your initial response can be used by you for rebuttal after Conrail's rebuttal. So following the presentations, the board will meet in closed session with its attorney for advice and may then return to open session to deliberate and take action, if any. Does anyone have any questions or initial procedural matters that need to be discussed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Conrail, you may proceed with your presentation, and your 10 minutes will begin now.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the board, the superintendent, and also the staff to attend this, and we appreciate the opportunity to go through the last section of the grievance committee. Our goal today is try to improve on a system that we believe that needs improvements to assure the best outcome for everybody to participate, and also, and to the end, for the benefit of all those who are in that process, as well as the children in which we serve to build these facilities. I'd like to also introduce our attorney, Wes Manus, who is going to give you the, synopsis of it, and also Michael Smith, who is there to respond to when presenting that. Prior to that, I'd like to acknowledge that Conrail Group is a 100% African-American joint venture made of 3 firms, which is Conrail, we also Postel, and also Levis, in association with the Black Contractors Association. So we're proud to have them part of this team, and I'll now turn it over to Wes.
Thank you. You've got in front of you Conrail's Level 3 statement. I won't go through the facts and the history for purposes of time. You've got it in front of you, and the information is there. We've both stated it well. I'll just get straight to the point of it. We're here because we believe and perceive that there is a flaw in the bidding process as applied to this project at issue here. I was here at the beginning of the board meeting, and it struck me how important how the money is acquired and spent by the school district. Most of what everybody who spoke before the board indicated was the money needs to go here, it should go there. That just enforces the fact that how you are stewards of the school district's money is so important. And that's the linchpin of why we're here right now, how the money is spent and the best way to spend it. The competitive bidding process relies on competition. The point of the whole competitive bidding process is to obtain the lowest responsible informed bid. That's what we all try to do, and that's traditionally how you get the best price and the best contractor for the job given the circumstances. In this project, we recognize it was a fast-track project. It changed from an original construction project to a remodel job. So from the outset, everything was kind of behind and things needed to move fast. Now, Conrail, along with other contractors at Part 1 of this project, was asked to provide information to determine whether or not it would be considered a qualified bidder on this project. Conrail did so. And as one of 4 contractors selected to provide a bid on this project, it was given the right to proceed to Part 2. At Part 2, Conrail was provided 2 bits of information on which to provide its bid for its fee and general conditions. They were told to assume the project was 24 months in duration, and the project was to have a $27 million budget. That was it. Now you can imagine, how can a contractor determine, well, what are my general conditions going to be, and the fee involved, without knowing more than just the cost of the project and how long they're going to be there? You have to consider issues like, is there a student body present? On a new construction, there's not going to be one generally. On this one, it's a remodel. So what do we have to do with the students? Are they going to be barred from the area? Or are they going to be using the area? Are they going to be in and out of the projects? So will we need to have that additional manpower to handle those issues? That, amongst other things, are just an example of questions you would ask. So when Conrail received its Part 2 package with those 2 bits of information, Conrail immediately embarked on asking questions. There was a series of questions they wanted to ask, but you got to start somewhere, so they started with 2 questions. First of all, how are we going to be graded in getting this project awarded? Is it going to be on price or a combination of other things? And secondly, when we do present, who can be there? This was just the start of questions to be asked. Conrail was met with one answer. Time for questions has passed. The time for questions passed before Conrail was given notice that it would even be allowed to bid on the project. So Conrail, in trying to do the right thing, chose to bid the project and make all assumptions possible so that the Fort Worth School District would not be surprised by any possible expense or cost. And in doing so, not knowing the information it wanted to know, Conrail identified these items as allowance items. Now, Michael Smith is the individual who put together that package, and just for clarity, I want him to tell you about how he was required to bid the project for the best benefit of the school.
It's best industry practice when you have limited information and no ability to ask questions to give what's called an allowance. That number can move up or down based on the information. And in our submission to Part 2, we clearly listed that all of the items were allowances. There were things such as temporary power, staffing, street cleaning. None of these things we would know if we did not know the scope. Now, none of the general contractors knew the scope, and that's not uncommon in this case. But to be graded on that and to be evaluated on that basis without being able to ask a question on it is the thing that we struggle with. And in the best interest of the students in the district, we assumed the worst case scenario. We had no choice but to. And that's best for not only us, but you guys. It just, in any scenario, when there's asbestos in a occupied school district with students, we found it prudent to assume the worst case and to protect the students. All the bidders, not just ourselves, were then evaluated based on that pricing. And even in our level 1 grievance, the program manager admitted that the general conditions number may in fact go up once the scope is defined. But once you get through until you get through pre-construction, you won't know that. So that's
Very good. If you want to see how Michael put the numbers together, that is Exhibit C to the package that you have of mine. It's kind of hard to read, but we're armed with what we have. We would have done an overhead, but they told us not to count on having that available or technical support, so we figured the old-fashioned paper would be the best for you to have on this. I want to go next to address the issues that have been presented by the position paper of the school district as a basis for denying the appeal or the level 3 grievance process. Their first point is, well, Conrail didn't really ask questions anyway, and the two they asked didn't have anything to do with scope. Well, simple answer to that is we started asking questions and they told us stop asking questions. So we're not going to keep asking questions then when we're told not getting answers. Thanks. Second, Conrail didn't participate in the walkthrough. Well, Conrail did, and a walkthrough is not where questions and answers are posed. And even if they were, those would be reduced to writing and proposed and provided to every contractor. That didn't happen here. There weren't any questions, and the walkthrough is not where you get your pertinent information for the project. Pricing was too high. Well, we know why the pricing is too high. We gave allowances that were realistic so that the school district would know, worst case, it's going to cost this, with full knowledge and explanation that the price is going to go down, as likely the price is going to go up for whoever the selected contractor is, because they don't know the information. They weren't given the scope and couldn't ask any questions. So really, what we're here faced with is you've got a project where you are trying to get the best price and the best contractor who knows how to do the job. You don't want to start the job and get surprised by change orders because, well, we didn't know about this, so it's going to be another $2 million. You want a responsible bid with a responsible price. And what we're proposing is that the bids be rejected, and with the information now known to all the parties, it be rebid, and the contractors be allowed to ask questions. That way they will be best informed and can actually give you the best price, fully advised. Now, to not do this and go with the old process is simple, stay the course, which shouldn't apply in these financial times. You have to be able to give the right price, and in allowing the project to be rebid, this grievance process gives you the opportunity to bring this project in line with the other projects where you now allow the contractor bidding the project to ask questions and have full information. To bar them from asking questions before bidding the project is counterproductive and flies in the face of the bidding process. You want the best process, the best price, and the way to do that is to rebid it for this project. Thanks.
Is that a 2-minute warning or is that the 10 minutes? Okay. Okay. Mr. Anderson, sorry, you may proceed.
Thank you, President Ramos, members of the board. We're here today to hear the Level 3 grievance of Conrail Group. First, I would like to explain a little bit about the procurement method that the district uses. We have two general procurement methods. One is CSP, which is closed sealed proposal, and the other one is CMAR, which is construction manager at risk. Now, these two are very different processes. One, with a closed sealed proposal, we wait until the architect is done with the drawings and everything is ready, and then based off that, we have the bids happen in a closed bid, and we pick the lowest bidder. The other procurement method is this method, CMAR. With CMAR, the actual procurement happens before the architect even finishes the drawings, sometimes before the architect even starts on the drawings. Now, this is done on purpose because we want to save money. The construction company that is selected is then urged to work with the architect to find cost-saving methods that would save the district a significant amount of money. Now, this is the process that the district used for this project, not only for the cost saving and also for the cooperation that you have with the architect, but also because this is the best procurement mechanism to ensure hub participation. The district values hub participation and has made a goal to achieve at least 25% in its procurement methods, and CMAR is one of those mechanisms that we use for. Now, because it's so early in the stage as far as the designs, it's very hard to have a complete scope and have everything, all the details laid out. A lot of times, there's the basis that is provided, the scope of work is very basic, and that's what is required by law. You just need to provide where the site is, a basic scope of work. You need to provide a time frame. And the reason for this is what the construction firm is supposed to then do with that information is provide us with what they can do the project for. We say, here's $27 million, and what can you do this project for? Now, there were 4 firms that were selected for this project. Now, 3 out of the 4 firms were very close within the quote that they provided. If you look at the exhibits that are in your packet, you see that the 3 firms all had 2.99% as far as their cost basis, and Conrail in this instance had 3.99%. Also, when you look at the cost difference between the lowest bidder and Conrail, you have a $1.8 million difference, and that's provided in the exhibit as well. Now, the whole point of the CMAR process, again, is to make sure that there's that cooperation. Now, part of that is going into that pre-construction meeting. Conrail might say that that's not valuable, but a lot of the construction firms know how valuable those pre-construction meetings are. That's when you get to hear some of the scope. Yes, it's provided already, but you get to hear it firsthand. And then for those people that want to participate, you're actually able to walk the site. Construction companies with experience send their superintendents for the work site, and they're able to then go in and they tour the site. If they have any questions, they ask them, but most of the times they don't. They take their own notes and jot down what the issues they might see. Conrail in this situation, for the pre-construction meeting, send their marketing coordinator, Ms. Gina Alley, to participate in this pre-construction meeting, and she didn't actually attend the walkthrough. Now, again, the evidence shows that at no point did any of the construction firms ask any questions. They didn't ask any questions up until the deadline to ask questions, which was March 13th, and they didn't ask any questions afterwards. Conrail itself didn't ask any questions until during the deadline, and then the questions that they asked was actually only 4 days away before their interview after they had been selected for the step 2 of the CMAR process. And if you actually look at the questions that they asked, they had nothing to do with the scope of work. Now, Conrail wants to make it seem as if they didn't know anything about the scope of work, and that's caused a lot of issues as far as their pricing. If that was the case, wouldn't that be the first questions they would ask? But when you look at the actual questions, the first one says, what is the evaluation scoring process as it pertains to pricing? Is it all or none, lowest to highest, weighted based on points, etc.? The second question is, we understand that the interview is limited to 5 people presenting. Will you allow other members to be present in the audience silently, or is it closed to only presenters in the district? From the actual questions themselves, you can see that they're not actually asking anything about the scope of work. They're asking about the interview that is coming up 4 days later. Now, when you look at board policy CVD legal, it talks about the two-step process of the CMAR. Step 1 is in its initial request for proposal, the district provides a statement as to whether the selection process is a 1 or 2-step process, and 2, general information on the project site, project scope, schedule, selection criteria, and the weighted value for each criteria based an estimated budget, and the time, place for receipt for the proposals or qualifications and other information that may assist the district in its selection of a construction manager at risk. The evidence shows that the district met these requirements, because they are very basic requirements, based on the need of a CMAR project. We met these requirements, and the district position is that there is no basis for Conrail's grievance. And the allowing the rebidding of the process would only serve to delay a project that is already being delayed. If you were to send it back to be rebid, it would have to go through the CSP process. It wouldn't be fair to the other construction firms to place theirs back into the CMAR process, because their numbers are now available. It would have to go into a CSP closed sealed proposal in order to make it a fair and equitable process for all the other construction firms. Thank you.
How much time does he have left? How much? 3 minutes and 25 seconds. And did you let Conrail know a 2-minute warning? You did? Okay. So Conrail, you have 0 minutes remaining to present the rebuttal. And then at this time, Mr. Anderson, you have 3 minutes and 25 seconds remaining if you would like to use that time.
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to the next portion, does the board have any questions of any of the parties? The board, have any questions of any of the parties? Trustee Evans.
Just for clarification, when did you receive part 2 of the package? Or when you were notified that you've made it to the next?
We received part 2 of the package 4 days after. We received part 2 of the package the day after the deadline for questioning had passed, and 3 days or 4 days prior to our interview.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Looks like no more. Trustee Jackson.
I do have one question. Thank you, President Ramos. The CMAR fee was 2.95% for 3 of the 4 companies, and it was 3.99 for Conrail. Is it common for 3 companies to come in at that rate, at 2.95? Is that a standard fee?
I mean, it's usual to base, if you know the scope of the project, to kind of come close to 2.955%. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. More questions from the board? So this concludes the hearing portion of this proceeding. At this time, the board will move to closed session to consult with the board's attorney pursuant to sections 551.071, .074, and .078 of the Texas Government Code. The board will then reconvene into open session to deliberate and take action if appropriate. Okay. We are now convened in open session to deliberate, consider, and take action on the level 3 grievance of Conrail. Just to make sure, any board members have any questions they'd like to ask either side? Okay. So the time is 8:28 p.m. Do I have a motion? And your options, let me read out your possible motions then. I move, it would sound like this. I move to uphold the administration's decision and deny the relief sought by Conrail. Another possible motion, I move to overturn the administration's decision and grant the relief sought by Conrail as follows and then blank. Or I move to amend the administration's decision, partially granting and partially denying the relief sought by Conrail as follows, blank. Or the fourth option, the board is taking this appeal under consideration and will make a decision on this matter at a later board meeting or blank. Would like to make a motion? Trustee Paz, what is your motion?
I move that we uphold the administration's decision.
Okay, so I have a motion by Trustee Paz to move to uphold the administration's decision and deny the relief sought by Conrail. We have a second by Trustee Evans. Any discussion? Looks like no discussion. Please move the vote. Motion passes 8-4 and 0 against. This time we'll move on to comments by board members or superintendent on current district activities and announcements. Do we have any comments by board members or superintendent on any of the district activities? Looks like we have no comments. So this meeting is adjourned.